What's good, everybody? It's me, Miraj. Let's talk Black Panther.
Stay down with no faking. Go up, top down, I've been racing. Go up, she wild, I'm in dangerous. Go up, my crowd in rotation.
So I recently just saw Black Panther the other day, along with 700 other Snapchat friends of yours, and I've been thinking about it a lot recently. And I get it, dude. I get it. There's been 18 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies now, along with a dozen other superhero movies. I think we're all starting to feel just a little bit superhero comic book movie fatigue. I get it. Did anyone really ask for a movie about Doctor Strange? I don't think so. But you need to hear me out for 1 second. I think Black Panther is really, really cool and exactly the type of movie that we need today. Creed's director, Ryan Coogler, is tasked with the amazing job of directing Disney's first not white superhero movie, along with co-writing it with Joe Robert Cole. They have an ensemble of amazing actors to work with, such as Jackie Robinson, Donnie Creed, Maz, Michonne, Bilbo, Chris, and even Caesar the Ape. Black Panther is a movie about Prince T'Challa, who takes on the throne of a fictional African country, Wakanda, after his father passes away in the events of Captain America's Civil War. So that's pretty much all you really need to know about the movie. There's some little things that you could probably pick up on if you're a super nerd and you've seen all of the Marvel movies, but you don't really need to. It stands on its own, and that's probably one of its greatest strengths. So I think I've talked enough about what the movie is or who's in it and stuff like that. I need to tell you guys what I've been thinking about it, why I think it's just so awesome. Black Panther is the first MCU movie in a very, very, very long time. I forgot I was watching a Marvel movie about halfway throughout the movie. I completely forgot. Similar to the fictional country the movie primarily takes place in, Wakanda, it exiles itself from the rest of the world, right? Wakanda doesn't accept foreign aid, nor does it give it. It stands on its own. Black Panther does the same. This movie really just doesn't care about any other Marvel movie, any of the Marvel formulas, or anything about Marvel at all. It stands on its own. It has its own identity, and it does that through 4 major things that I can't stop thinking about: the location, the characters, the villain, and the themes. It doesn't follow the Marvel formula at all. You don't leave this theater thinking, that was another Marvel movie. You leave this thinker going, dude, Black Panther's really fucking cool. Now, don't get me wrong, it still is a superhero comic book movie, right? It still has its quippy one-liners that you'll laugh at, and the magic suits, the magic rocks, and the super CGI action scenes, but where Black Panther differentiates itself is where it really stands strong. So I really want to talk about the location of where this movie primarily takes place, because I think it really helps the movie form its own identity, and it really makes this distinct feeling that the movie has. It primarily takes place in that fictional country I mentioned earlier, Wakanda. And what's so great about Wakanda is the minute you're in it, you realize, whoa, this place has its own culture and it's distinct from anything I've ever even thought of. What does it so well is this mixture of African cultures, and on the totally other side of the spectrum, you have all this futuristic sci-fi shit you would see in a movie like Star Trek. And somehow they just say, let's put it all together. This is a country you would think is a third world country, but instead it's years, decades ahead of every other country on the planet. One minute you see rhinos and huts in the background, the next you're in this futuristic holographic car controlling a Lexus in South Korea. And this is all due to the special metal that lands on the country years and years ago. So there's never a moment where you think comparative to Guardians of the Galaxy where there are pretty moments and pretty landscapes and pretty planets on that movie too, but you don't really have a feeling of connection to it. This movie justifies everything about Wakandian culture, all because of the vibranium that lands on the planet decades and decades and centuries ago. And I think that's what makes Wakanda so important to Black Panther. Wakandian culture and the location, the way it looks and feels, has this core identity. You really know what Wakanda looks and feels like. If you compare that to other landscapes or moments or places in other Marvel movies, they just don't really compare. The only time you think of memorable moments are certain events or actions that are associated with it. Special effects that happen in Doc Strange. Whoa, do you remember when London got all twisted up? Or moments in New York where you go, man, remember when the skyscrapers fell down in Avengers? Never do you think the actual place is a character. In Black Panther, Wakanda is a character. You care about this country just as much as you do as the other cast. So it wouldn't be fair if I just talked about the location of the movie without really talking about another core part of the movie that plays in the background, that being the soundtrack. The Black Panther soundtrack had a lot of hype before the movie was even released. Why? It's pretty much a TDE joint headed by the one and only King Kendrick Lamar, probably one of the biggest rappers in the game right now. And so there's a lot of hype behind it. What did I think of the movie soundtrack? It's okay. It's a movie soundtrack. I'm not expecting another Kendrick Lamar album. It's pretty good. It's not awful and it's not just forgettable. There's some great tracks on it. I'm looking at X or King's Dead. Both of those tracks are absolutely bangers, especially in the chorus where Kendrick goes off. And what makes it even better is when you subtly, very subtly, hear it in the very cool action scenes of Black Panther. I'm specifically talking about the casino scene, where everything's one tracking shot until you leave the casino and then you're in this amazing car and suddenly you just hear Kendrick in the background just going off. And you go, man, this scene is already intense enough, and now I have Kendrick Lamar popping off in the background. And there's other moments too where you hear SZA, I think that's how you pronounce her name, maybe, and subtly playing the beginning of the movie, or even the ritual fights where it's no like singing or audio or rapping, it's just these musical instrumentals that really make the movie much more intense than you ever thought it could be. Along with fast shaking camera movements, the soundtrack and some of the tracks aid it in that sense too, with this feeling of I'm really invested in what's happening right now in the movie. Talk about that Wakanda squad. When I think about the characters in Black Panther, I think about Thor. Why? Because I think about other superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and none of them are really royalty. They're the rich, white, smart, or the underdog bad boy, right? There's nothing ever been closer to a prince than Thor, son of Odin. And when I think of the Thor movies, I think first two were kind of okay, good, probably bad, and the third one was good only because like he had the Hulk to riff off of. So what makes Black Panther so much different? Why does a boring character like T'Challa, who's very reserved and has a lot of internal conflict within him, create such a fun, great movie? And the main reason why is because his personality or these great moments come out with the supporting cast around him. When Prince T'Challa is interacting with all these amazing characters, it's not just him who gets to show off who he is. We get to see the supporting characters not just be supporting characters, but reveal that, hey, they're characters too with their own complex feelings, emotions, and pursuits and dreams. For example, you have his younger sister, Shuri, who never comes off as this bratty, annoying type person, but rather this young girl who has her own pursuits in technology and science, and she supports her younger brother with it, but she has these grander goals to push the world and the country with what she's discovered about vibranium. And you also have people like the General, Okoye, who's never this stoic, boring, I'm a strict general who only likes tanks and war type character. She's conflicted with her moral compass and where her allegiance is and what she wants to do, along with being a friend to Prince T'Challa. And another very big important one is the love interest, Nakia, who to say is love interest wouldn't be fair of her. She's not this one-dimensional secretary to Prince T'Challa. She's there as her own character. She has her own dreams, she has her own goals, she has her own job, she has her own life. She pursues those. Those are what she likes to do and she aims to achieve, and her achieving those, or going for them at least, help our protagonist find out what his main goals are or where his moral compass is. And I think that's where supporting characters are actually incredible, where they're not just there to be like, hey, I drive your limousine and I crack some jokes, but they're there to support the main character find his own moral compass and who he is and this internal conflict he's fighting, help solve that with him, but also live their own lives and have their own goals and who they are as people, because they're characters in this world as well, and they have their own lives to live, and you clearly see that with all the different characters in Black Panther. I get it. You had a character section. Why does the villain get his own section? Well, guess what? I think Michael B. Jordan playing as Eric Stevens or Killmonger is the clear standout star of this movie, and I think very few would disagree with that. Killmonger really kills it in this movie, but there's many reasons why, right? His one-liners, the way he walks, the action scenes, or who he is really as a person and what causes him to do the actions that he does. The viewer has a lot of empathy for him. We understand why he's doing what he's doing. But I think the greatest thing about the villain is in the context of all the other characters of this movie, which makes him even better. A majority of the characters in Black Panther are Wakandian. You know by their accent, their clothes, their personalities, they are Wakandian. But Killmonger isn't. He knows a lot about Wakandian culture, but he's not born and raised there. He's American, right? They even refer to him as he's the American one. He's not Wakandian. And he has this conflicting part where he wants to go back home, but he can't for some reason. And this is where I think it's so cool, because Killmonger is our lens, is us, essentially. We know a lot about Wakanda. Why? Because we see the movie. We know the history, we know the culture, we know the characters, the way it works, what they've done, what they haven't done, etc., etc. But we aren't really Wakandian, right? Killmonger is our lens. He's the person that we're able to relate to the most. Along with his back history, you're allowed to really understand, hey, maybe Killmonger's right. And that's when you know you have a great villain. When you really relate to him and you start to think, dude, he's the right one. So when you have this gray area where you have the villain fighting the protagonist and you go, I don't know, dude, I kind of like Michael B. Jordan more. That shows for an amazing villain, and I think that's why Killmonger is so great throughout this movie. He's being our vessel in the Black Panther film. We're able to relate to him, along with all the silly other things he does, the funny one-liners, and the way he pretty much talks like a hype beast. Maybe that's why I liked him so much. So we can talk about a lot of the stuff that everyone's freaking out about this movie, right? An all-black cast, all well-written characters, this amazing sense of story and how it's an actual good movie, and it shows and is starting to prove that, hey, when I see someone that's on the screen that looks like me, I'm going to start going to the movies, and guess what? It's going to sell great. Weird. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? No one saw that coming at all. Nobody. I think the movie also does really well in these really cool hypothetical gray question, gray answer moments. What responsibility does an African superhero owe to the Western world who essentially sold all of his ancestors into slavery? How does Prince T'Challa work with being the ruler of the most powerful country in the world, but nobody knows it? And what responsibility did Wakanda have to protecting the people that it could have all throughout the decades of slavery and social injustice when it didn't? These questions and thematic problems are great, and they really show out with Killmonger and Prince T'Challa. And what's so interesting is by the end of the movie, you don't really find an answer. You don't really think of an answer. You kind of just settle on one. And I think that's what's so cool about this movie. It really shows that, hey, there are some difficult questions here, and Prince T'Challa is facing them, and he doesn't know what's right, and the viewer probably doesn't either. And by the end of the movie, even when you decide on an answer, it may not be the right one. I think that's what great art does. It brings out these emotions and questions and this feeling of when you leave the theater, you don't just go, oh, that was a fun movie. You think, man, did he do the right thing? I kind of like the villain more. Something about this movie, along with all the things that I just mentioned, it brings out this sense of, wow, this movie isn't just fun. I didn't just do my Marvel homework, right? I watched a really cool movie that kept me captivated throughout its 2 hours and 14-minute runtime, and never in a moment did I go, oh man, I could pull out my phone right now. I go, man, these characters are really fucking cool. Thanks for watching. This is an epilogue letting people know I may make more videos. I may not. But if you asked me, what do I think about Black Panther, and I sent you this link, this is me letting you know what I thought about Black Panther, because I'm too lazy to text everything I just said. So yeah. See you guys next time.